Increasingly, what's happening in Parliament, spilling over, playing out in the courts. Let's get a bit of analysis about what happened today in the Constitutional Court. We're joined now by the Director for the Centre of Constitutional Rights, Phephelaphi Dube. She joins us from our studios in Cape Town. Good evening to you, Ms. Dube. And can we start with the background? Because there was the Nkandla saga, the President not meeting his constitutional duties. The DA then tried to impeach him. It failed. Then this. What are they trying to achieve?
Yes, you're quite right, and as you've quite rightly given the background to this started with the Nkandla matter, and as we remember from the Nkandla matter, the Constitutional Court basically said that the President, in having basically second-guessed the Public Protector's report and having failed to abide by the remedial recommendations that were given by the Public Protector in the Nkandla matter, that in doing all of that, the President had failed to abide by his constitutional duties, and thereafter, the opposition parties had tried to impeach the President, and thereafter they also tried to remove the President in terms of a motion of no confidence, and of course all of that has failed. So now we've seen the EFF and the other political parties approach the Constitutional Court to basically ask the Constitutional Court to have a kind of process before the actual impeachment debate, but a process which would try and establish the President's guilt insofar as the President has violated the law. And I think if we bear in mind the fact that the impeachment process that's established in the Constitution can only be done for three reasons. So there has to have been a serious violation of the law or the Constitution, and the President has to have misconducted himself in a serious manner. And the third reason for an impeachment is that the President is unable to conduct the duties of his office. So based on all of that, and based on the fact that the Constitutional Court did find that the President failed to abide by his constitutional duties, the EFF and the other political parties are of the view that there needs to be a process before the impeachment debate, which then establishes the guilt of the President.
How will this change things? Because you still need the votes when it goes to debate. When it goes to the vote, you need ANC votes. Do they believe that some sort of process before showing possible guilt will strengthen the case?
You are quite right in pointing that ultimately, in terms of the Constitution, it's really only the National Assembly that can, by a vote, remove the President from his office. It's really only the members of the National Assembly who can impeach the President. So I think the bigger picture here is that this isn't just a legal question. I think it's more of a political question. I think it's really these political parties just bearing in mind that, we are going into an election year very soon. So I think it's really a way in which these political parties are sending out very important messages to the South African public about the ability of the governing party to hold its own leader accountable.
So it's about showing up the President, because the motion of no confidence failed. That only needed 50% plus one. And impeachment would need 2/3 of Parliament. So really, it seems impossible. And they're going through this whole court process for something that's impossible. Do you agree?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to call it impossible. I think it is indeed, given what is practiced in other jurisdictions, given the fact that Brazil, for example, has a procedure which the EFF has described today today before the Constitutional Court. And it's just really another way, it's really an extra layer of accountability. And also, I think the problem is we have a National Assembly in which the members of the National Assembly are largely drawn from the governing party, which of course means that if the same National Assembly is to hold the leader of the governing party accountable, it almost becomes a difficult situation. But on the other hand, this procedure, if the Constitutional Court was to find in favor of the opposition party, it would simply be adding an extra layer of accountability, because if we listened to the senior counsel who is representing the EFF, if we listened to the representation that he made today before the Constitutional Court, he was saying that this could be a procedure which would see the president himself being cross-examined. And up until this moment, we have really never heard the president's side of the story insofar as the Nkandla matter was concerned, in the sense that, we had the president speak through his legal representatives, but we've never really put him to the test. We've never really asked him those difficult questions. So, of course, if this was to succeed, it would be adding an extra layer of accountability.
And like you say, putting the president on the spot then. It's interesting that the DA is now supporting this. And there were arguments today saying that the DA's first attempt to impeach the president may have been unconstitutional. Just describe their involvement here.
Well, the DA is basically acting off of the back of the EFF's points. So the EFF's major points are that the National Assembly has breached its constitutional duty to hold the president accountable. And then the DA is starting off from there, but then the DA also wants the National Assembly it basically wants the Constitutional Court to find that the National Assembly itself breached the constitutional duty by failing to launch impeachment investigations into the president. And then the second request, or the second declaratory order that the DA is asking for, is that right now, within the National Assembly, there are no effective mechanisms for the National Assembly to initiate impeachment proceedings. So they would like the Constitutional Court to be involved and to establish some kind of mechanism for the National Assembly to initiate impeachment proceedings.
And this is so interesting. Should the Speaker of Parliament, there was an interesting discussion, herself initiate a process against the president in her own party? We know that politics in this country is divisive at the moment. If you look into your crystal ball, what do you think the Constitutional Court will say?
Well, I think if we look at how the Constitutional Court has behaved in other matters which have involved the courts as well as other branches of government, either the executive or the National Assembly, the Constitutional Court generally doesn't tell the other branches of government how to do its job. So the Constitutional Court may tell the other branches of government what to do, but it's really not going to go into the nitty-gritties. For example, with the secret ballot matter, we saw the Constitutional Court saying that, yes, the Speaker of the National Assembly had the power to hold a secret ballot, but it did not tell her that she should go ahead with that secret ballot. It very much left that discretion within her, realm to exercise. So I think similarly in this matter, which obviously involves the manner in which the National Assembly conducts its day-to-day business, I think the Constitutional Court is going to be very careful in terms of not infringing on the power of the National Assembly.
Ms. Dube, final parting shot and maybe a bigger question. Earlier I was talking to an economist about growth in South Africa, about the fact that in Parliament it's all about the president right now. It's not about economic policy, while people are starving to death. We can put it that starkly. A lot of lawyers are making a lot of money, sometimes taxpayers' money. We're seeing the opposition parties in this case. So it's not taxpayers' money, but is all of this litigation, all of this political shenanigans, I guess, necessary?
Well, you're quite right, and I do share those concerns. But really, for me, I would take it a step further and say that it's really a reflection of perhaps the broken nature of the party political system in South Africa, because we find ourselves unable as a nation to hold the president accountable, because the nature of our party political system is that it's really only the political party itself that can hold the president accountable. And in the failure of that political party holding the president accountable, there aren't many options, at least options outside of the ballot box. So essentially it means that we as a nation are held ransom to elections every 5 years.
All right, thank you so much for your analysis tonight. It was great chatting to you. Phephelaphi Dube from the Centre for Constitutional Rights. We take a short